Can we be honest for a second? Single-player games are supposedly dead, right? That's what the industry keeps telling us while shoving live service garbage down our throats. Every publisher wants the next Fortnite, the next Destiny, the next game as a service that prints money forever. Meanwhile, we're out here just wanting a complete story. No battle passes, no seasonal content, no FOMO nonsense. Just a game we can buy, play, finish, and actually own. So I did something that felt almost rebellious in 2026. I went through my entire PS5 library and made a list of single-player games that are genuinely worth full price. Games that respect your time, deliver complete experiences, and remind you why you fell in love with gaming in the first place. No microtransactions, no roadmaps, no waiting 6 months for the game to be fixed. Just pure, unfiltered single-player excellence that justifies the $70 price tag. This is my breakdown of 19 single-player PS5 games that prove the format isn't just alive, it's thriving. These games are worth every dollar, and I'm ranking them in no particular order because honestly, they're all great for different reasons. Let's get into it. Rise of the Ronin is Team Ninja's take on open-world action, set during the Bakumatsu period of Japan, a time of political upheaval and samurai twilight. You're a Ronin navigating alliances between pro-shogunate and pro-imperial factions, and your choices shape the story. The world is dense with side quests, faction missions, and historical figures, and the combat is peak Team Ninja, fast, brutal, and unforgiving. The highlights are the duels and boss fights, facing legendary swordsmen in one-on-one battles that require perfect timing. Fighting alongside historical figures like Sakamoto Ryoma and Saigo Takamori. The combat blends parrying, countering, and weapon variety, katanas, spears, firearms, and every fight feels deliberate. The DualSense makes every sword clash and gunshot feel weighty, and the 60 FPS performance keeps everything smooth. The story is ambitious, exploring themes of loyalty, tradition versus progress, and identity. The choices you make affect faction standings and endings, giving real weight to decisions. The world can feel repetitive, Ubisoft-style towers and collectibles, but the core combat and historical setting make up for it. Rise of the Ronin is a flawed but fascinating game that shows Team Ninja can do more than Souls-likes. If you want a single-player samurai epic with depth, this is worth the price. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is Respawn taking everything that worked in Fallen Order and expanding it in every direction. Cal Kestis is older, more experienced, and dealing with trauma from the first game. The story explores what it means to survive when the Jedi Order is extinct, and the supporting cast, Bode, Merrin, Grease, are all given meaningful arcs. The pacing is excellent, and the final act delivers emotional payoffs that actually land. The standout moments are the boss fights and exploration. Dueling Dagon Gera on a collapsing space station, the rematch with Darth Vader that's brief but terrifying, the Rancor fight on Kobo that's pure adrenaline. The planets are massive and packed with secrets. Ancient Jedi temples, hidden bosses, cosmetic unlocks. The lightsaber customization is deep, and experimenting with different stances, single, dual, crossguard, keeps combat fresh. The DualSense makes every lightsaber clash feel impactful, and the haptic feedback during force abilities is satisfying. The game is big, 30+ hours, but it never feels padded. Every planet has personality, every side quest has context, and the main story wraps up cleanly while leaving room for a sequel. Jedi Survivor is one of the best Star Wars games ever made, and if you love the franchise or just want a great action adventure, it's essential. Assassin's Creed Shadows is Ubisoft finally taking the series to feudal Japan, and it's the setting fans have been begging for since the franchise began. You're playing as both a shinobi assassin and a samurai warrior, and the dual protagonist system lets you approach missions with stealth or direct combat. The world is gorgeous, cherry blossom forests, castles, bustling villages, and the attention to historical detail is impressive. The standout moments are the assassinations. Infiltrating a daimyo's fortress using grappling hooks and rooftop paths, taking out targets during festivals while blending into crowds. The samurai sections are pure spectacle. Open battles, duels against rival warriors, defending villages from bandits. The combat is refined from recent AC games, and the DualSense makes every katana strike, every arrow release, every hidden blade kill feel precise. The story involves political intrigue, clan warfare, and the rise of the Tokugawa shogunate. It's not groundbreaking, but it's engaging and well-paced. The side content, collecting armor sets, hunting legendary animals, exploring shrines is standard Ubisoft fare, but the setting elevates everything. Shadows isn't revolutionary, but it's a polished, focused AC game in a setting that finally feels fresh. If you've been waiting for Assassin's Creed in Japan, this delivers. Cyberpunk 2027 had one of the worst launches in gaming history, but in 2026, after years of patches and the Phantom Liberty expansion, it's finally the game it should have been at launch. The Ultimate Edition on PS5 runs smoothly, looks incredible, and Night City is one of the most detailed open worlds ever created. The story of V trying to survive with a dying engram in their head is emotionally gripping, and the branching paths lead to genuinely different endings. The Phantom Liberty expansion is phenomenal. You're working with a rogue FIA agent in Dogtown, a walled-off district filled with espionage, betrayal, and moral gray areas. The new characters, Solomon Reed, Songbird, are excellently written, and the ending choices are brutal. Do you save yourself or help someone escape their handler? There are no good answers. The base game's main quest, the heist, Nocturne OP55N, the Johnny Silverhand relationship are all elevated by performances that make you care. The combat has been overhauled. Net running, melee builds, stealth, gunplay, it all feels refined and balanced. The DualSense adds feedback to hacking, driving, and shooting. The city feels alive. NPCs have routines, traffic patterns change, and Night City at night is one of the most atmospheric settings in gaming. Cyberpunk 2027 Ultimate Edition is proof that redemption arcs are possible. If you wrote it off at launch, give it another chance. It's worth it now. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the latest entry in the Yakuza Like the Dragon series, and it's one of the most heartfelt, absurd, and engaging RPGs you can play. You're playing as Ichiban Kasuga, now in Hawaii, dealing with personal drama, criminal conspiracies, and the wildest side content imaginable. The turn-based combat returns from Yakuza Like a Dragon, refined and expanded with new jobs, abilities, and team synergies. The story is peak Yakuza, emotional family drama mixed with over-the-top crime intrigue. Ichiban's search for his mother, Kiryu's farewell tour dealing with terminal illness, the clash between old-school Yakuza values and modern crime. The writing balances heartbreak and humor perfectly. One moment you're crying over Kiryu's bucket list, the next you're managing a resort, racing go-karts, or fighting a mascot in a Pokemon parody. The side content is where this series shines. Dating sims, baseball management, karaoke, classic Sega arcade games, it's endless. The sub-stories range from hilarious to touching, and the world feels alive with personality. Infinite Wealth is long, 70+ hours if you do everything, but it never feels padded. Every system has depth, every character matters, and the conclusion that Kiryu's story is handled with respect and emotion. If you want a single-player RPG that respects your investment, this is it. Lies of P takes the Bloodborne formula, sets it in a nightmarish, puppet-infested version of Belle-Epoque Europe, and executes it brilliantly. You're playing as Pinocchio, yes, really, fighting through Krat City while trying to become human. The aesthetic is disturbing and beautiful. Gothic architecture, steampunk machinery, grotesque marionettes that move in unsettling, jerky animations. The DualSense makes every weapon feel distinct. Saw blades grind, rapiers feel precise, heavy hammers hit with satisfying weight. The boss fights are brutal and memorable. The Parade Master, a grotesque puppet conductor that sets the tone immediately. The Puppet King in Krat City Hall, where you're dodging attacks in a collapsing throne room. Laxatia the Complete, a multi-phase nightmare that tests everything you've learned. The combat is faster than Dark Souls, but more deliberate than Bloodborne. And the weapon assembly system, mixing handles and blades, adds customization that keeps builds interesting. The story is surprisingly emotional. The lie system affects your humanity and endings, and your choices towards becoming human or staying a puppet have real weight. The side quests flesh out Krat's tragedy, and the optional bosses, the eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, are genuinely challenging. Lies of P doesn't reinvent Souls-likes, but it's one of the best on PS5. If you love difficult combat and gothic horror, this is worth every penny. Hogwarts Legacy is the Harry Potter game we've been waiting for since childhood, and it actually delivers. You're a fifth-year student at Hogwarts with a mysterious connection to ancient magic, and the world is yours to explore. The castle is massive, beautifully detailed, and packed with secrets. Flying on a broom across the Scottish Highlands, attending classes, brewing potions, fighting dark wizards. It's all here and it works. The highlights are the exploration and world building. Walking through the halls of Hogwarts and recognizing locations from the books and films, discovering hidden rooms, solving puzzles in ancient ruins, battling trolls and poachers in the Forbidden Forest. The main story involves a goblin rebellion and ancient magic, and while it's not groundbreaking, it's engaging enough to keep you invested. The companion quests, helping Sebastian with his dark magic problems, assisting Poppy with magical creatures, add depth to the world. The combat is surprisingly good. You're chaining spells, dodging attacks, using the environment to your advantage. Boss fights against corrupted wizards and massive creatures feel epic. The Room of Requirement customization is addictive, and the variety of activities, Quidditch-style races, magical creature care, potion brewing, keeps things fresh. Hogwarts Legacy isn't perfect, the story is safe, the side content can feel repetitive, but it's a complete, polished experience that lets you live in the Harry Potter world. For fans, that's priceless. Dead Space Remake takes one of the scariest games ever made and rebuilds it with tech that makes every moment even more terrifying. The Ishimura is a masterclass in horror atmosphere. Dark corridors, flickering lights, distant screams, and the constant feeling that something is watching you. The PS5's 3D audio makes every sound feel directional and real. You hear necromorphs in the vents, you hear your own breathing in the vacuum of space, and the tension never breaks. The DualSense integration is phenomenal. Isaac's heartbeat pulses through the controller when oxygen runs low. Stomping necromorphs gives you visceral, crunchy feedback. The plasma cutter heats up as you fire. The zero-G sections are genuinely unnerving, floating through space with nothing but your suit while debris and enemies close in. The asteroid defense sequence, the return to the medical bay, the final confrontation with the hive mind, every major step piece is elevated. The pacing is perfect. The game respects your intelligence, never holds your hand, and trusts you to solve problems. The dismemberment system makes combat strategic. You're not just shooting center mass, you're targeting limbs, conserving ammo, using the environment. Dead Space Remake is what every remake should be, respectful to the original, but willing to improve everything. If you want single-player horror that justifies $70, this is it. RE4 Remake takes one of the greatest games ever made and reimagines it for the PS5 without losing what made it special. The atmosphere is heavier, the tension is thicker, and the survival horror elements are more pronounced. The village fight, the El Gigante encounters, the castle infiltration, it's all here, refined and elevated by modern tech. The instant load times mean you die and you're back in seconds. No waiting, just pure momentum. The DualSense does incredible work here. You feel Leon's heartbeat through the controller when enemies close in. Reloading the shotgun has this satisfying mechanical feedback. Chainsaws revving send vibrations that genuinely make you panic. The regenerators in the lab, the lake monster ambush, Krauser's knife fight in the rain. Every iconic moment is enhanced by tech that makes it feel more real, more dangerous. The boss fights are spectacular. El Gigante slamming the ground, Salazar's final form, the Verdugo stalking you through the sewers, and the adaptive difficulty keeps things tense without feeling cheap. RE4 Remake proves you can honor a classic while making something that feels entirely new. This is how you do a remake. respectful but willing to take risks, worth every dollar for both newcomers and veterans. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is the definitive version of one of the most divisive and brilliant games ever made. The story is brutal, morally complex, and emotionally exhausting. Ellie's revenge quest against Abby spirals into a cycle of violence that questions everything you think you know about justice. The performances are incredible, the writing is mature, and the pacing is deliberate. This is not a feel-good game, it's a tragedy. The standout moments are seared into my memory. The opening sequence that sets the entire revenge plot in motion, the aquarium flashback with Owen and Abby, the theater confrontation where two perspectives collide violently, the final fight on the beach where you're so emotionally destroyed that you just want it to end. The remastered version adds visual upgrades, faster load times, and DualSense integration that makes every gunshot, every punch, every infected encounter feel visceral. The gameplay is peak Naughty Dog. Stealth, resource management, brutal melee combat. The Rat King encounter in the hospital basement is one of the most terrifying sequences in any game. The open world Seattle sections give you space to breathe and explore. Part 2 is long, 25-30 hours, and it earns every minute. It's not for everyone. The story choices will frustrate some, but it's a complete, uncompromising vision that treats players like adults. If you want storytelling that challenges you, this is it. Ghost of Tsushima already felt like a masterpiece on PS4, but the director's cut on PS5 elevates it to another level. The game runs at 60 FPS in both performance and resolution modes, and the difference is transformative. Every sword swing, every gust of wind, every blade of grass moves with fluidity that makes combat feel like you're inside a Kurosawa film. The DualSense adds tension to your bow, feedback to every parry, and the haptic wind guiding you toward objectives is such a smart touch. The Iki Island expansion is phenomenal. It's darker, more personal, and pushes Jin to confront his past in ways the base game didn't. The new enemy types force you to adapt, and the duels, especially the fight against the Eagle and the Thunderstorm, are some of the most cinematic boss encounters I've experienced. The base game story of honor versus survival still hits hard, and the standoff system where you're facing down enemies in tense showdowns never gets old. The load times are instant. You die, you're back in 3 seconds. You fast travel, boom, you're there. The flow never breaks. Tsushima on PS5 isn't just a visual upgrade, it's the definitive version of one of the best open world games of the generation. If you missed it on PS4 or want an excuse to return, this version makes every moment feel next gen. Absolutely worth full price. Alan Wake 2 is the most visually stunning game I've ever played, and I'm not exaggerating. Remedy built this specifically for current-gen hardware, and it shows in every frame. The lighting, the reflections, the way shadows move. It's borderline photorealistic, and the atmosphere is so oppressive that even walking through a forest feels dangerous. This is horror done right. Slow burn, psychological, and deeply unsettling. The dual narrative structure is brilliant. You're swapping between FBI agent Saga Anderson investigating murders in Bright Falls and Alan trapped in the dark place trying to write his way out. Saga's sections are grounded detective work, crime scenes, interviews, connecting clues. Alan's sections are surreal nightmares where reality warps and the rules don't apply. The overlap sequences where both realities collide are some of the most creative and disturbing moments in modern horror. The DualSense enhances the dread. You feel Alan's typewriter keys clicking. You feel Saga's flashlight pulsing as the battery drains. The combat is tense and resource-driven, forcing you to make every shot count. The story is complex, layered, and rewards attention. This isn't a game you play distracted. Alan Wake 2 is a mature, cerebral horror experience that couldn't exist on last-gen hardware. If you want something that treats you like an adult and actually respects the medium, this is essential. Stellar Blade is a stylish action game that lives and dies by its combat, and thankfully the combat is fantastic. You're playing as Eve, fighting through a post-apocalyptic Earth filled with grotesque alien creatures, and every encounter is a test of timing and aggression. The parry system is tight, the combos are flashy, and the boss fights are genuinely challenging in the best way. The boss designs are incredible, massive biomechanical horrors that require pattern recognition and perfect execution. One fight had me battling on a collapsing bridge while dodging energy beams. Another was a multi-phase nightmare in a flooded subway where the arena kept changing. The DualSense makes every sword slash feel responsive, and the 60 FPS performance mode keeps combat smooth. The world is gorgeous, ruined cities, neon-lit hubs, environmental storytelling that hints at what humanity lost. The story is serviceable but not groundbreaking. It's standard post-apocalyptic fare with a few twists. The side content is forgettable, and exploration can feel empty at times. But the core loop, fighting, unlocking combos, perfecting your timing, is so satisfying that the flaws fade into the background. Stellar Blade is a AA game with AAA ambitions, and it mostly delivers. If you love character action combat and spectacular boss fights, it's absolutely worth the price. Final Fantasy XVI ditches turn-based combat entirely and goes full Devil May Cry with God of War style spectacle, and honestly, it works. The story is dark, political, and brutal. Kingdoms at war, slave systems, gods being weaponized. Clive Rosefield's revenge quest is tragic and compelling, and the performances carry the emotional weight. This is a mature Final Fantasy that doesn't shy away from violence or moral complexity. The icon battles are the reason you buy this game. Controlling Phoenix and fighting Ifra in a volcanic wasteland, piloting Bahamut and throwing mountains at Odin, the Titan versus Bahamut fight where you're literally punching through continents, it's absurd, over the top, and incredible. The DualSense makes every ability feel powerful, and the combat system built around dodging, countering, and chaining powers is endlessly satisfying. Landing a perfect limit break after a flawless combo feels like pure god tier power. The side quests are hit or miss, and the pacing drags slightly in the middle, but the main story is excellent. The world building is deep, the political intrigue is engaging, and the ending sticks the landing. FF16 is a bold reinvention of the series, and while it won't please everyone, it's a complete, polished experience that justifies the price. If you want epic fantasy with character action combat, this is your game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the middle chapter of the FF7 Remake trilogy, and it's the most ambitious, creative, and emotionally charged JRPG I've played in years. The world opens up massively from the first game. You're exploring multiple regions, riding chocobos, tackling side content that's actually fun, and watching Cloud's mental state slowly unravel. The story takes risks, subverts expectations, and commits to choices that will divide fans, but it's bold, and I respect that. The combat is peak action RPG. You're swapping between characters mid-battle, chaining abilities, exploiting weaknesses, and the synergy attacks between party members are satisfying as hell. The boss fights are spectacular, battling a Midgar Zolom in the swamps, the rematch with Rude and Reno on the cargo ship, the absolute chaos of the Temple of the Ancient sequence. The set pieces rival any AAA blockbuster, and the musical score is phenomenal. Remixes of classic tracks to hit harder with full orchestration. The emotional moments land. Aerith's character development, Cloud's deteriorating reality, Tifa trying to hold everyone together, it's all handled with care and nuance. The ending is divisive and will leave you with more questions than answers, but that's intentional. Rebirth is a game that trusts you to think, to speculate, to care. It's long, 60 plus hours, but it earns every minute. If you love the original FF7 or just want a JRPG that goes all in on spectacle and heart, Rebirth delivers. Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5 is proof that you can port a massive, complex RPG to console and lose none of the magic. Larian optimized this thing beautifully. Loading is fast, the controls work perfectly with the DualSense, and the scope is staggering. Every choice matters, every conversation branches, and every character has depth you won't fully explore in one playthrough. This is a game where you can spend 100+ hours and still discover new paths, new endings, new consequences. The combat is turn-based tactical perfection. Positioning matters, environmental hazards matter, and creative use of spells can turn impossible fights into victories. The fight in the Goblin Camp where you can talk, sneak, or murder your way to victory. The confrontation at Moonrise Towers where your choices from Act 1 come back to haunt you. The final battle against the Absolute, where every companion you've recruited can tip the scales. The dice rolling mechanic, enhanced with haptic feedback, makes every skill check feel tense and meaningful. The romance options are genuinely well written, the companion quests are emotionally engaging, and the world reacts to your decisions in ways that feel organic. BG3 on PS5 isn't a compromise, it's the full experience, running smoothly on hardware that can finally handle it. If you love RPGs, if you want player agency, if you want a game that respects your intelligence, Baldur's Gate 3 is essential, worth every dollar and then some. Elden Ring is From Software taking the Souls formula and exploding it into a massive open world, and somehow it works perfectly. You're dropped into the lands between with zero handholding, and the game trusts you to figure it out. The freedom is intoxicating. You can go anywhere, tackle bosses in any order, build your character however you want. It's punishing, cryptic, and absolutely brilliant. The mandatory bosses are unforgettable. Margit the Fell Omen teaching you humility at the gates of Stormvale. Starscourge Radahn's meteor attack that obliterates you if you're not ready. Melania, Blade of Miquella, who will destroy you hundreds of times until you master her patterns. The world design is stunning. Crumbling castles, underground cities, alien landscapes that feel genuinely otherworldly. Riding Torrent across open fields while discovering ruins, caves, and secrets is one of the purest joys in modern gaming. The DualSense adds subtle feedback to every weapon, every spell, every dodge roll. The load times are fast enough that dying doesn't break momentum, you're back in the fight within seconds. The story is classic From Software cryptic nonsense, but the environmental storytelling and item descriptions reward curiosity. Elden Ring is massive, difficult, and occasionally frustrating, but it's also one of the most rewarding single-player experiences you can have. If you've never played a Souls game, this is the one to start with. If you have, you already know how good this is. God of War Ragnarok is the conclusion to Kratos and Atreus' Norse saga, and it's one of the most emotionally satisfying sequels I've ever played. The story picks up right where the 2018 game left off, and the stakes are immediate. Ragnarok is coming, the gods are hunting you, and the relationship between father and son is fracturing under the weight of destiny. The writing is phenomenal, the performances are awards-worthy, and the pacing never lets up. These standout moments are everywhere. The opening fight against Thor, where you realize this isn't just a boss, this is a character with depth and motivation. The journey to Asgard, where you're walking through golden halls while Odin plays mind games. The final battle, which I won't spoil, but it's emotionally devastating and perfectly earned. The combat is refined from the first game, faster, more fluid, with new weapons and abilities that keep things fresh. The DualSense makes every axe throw, every shield bash, every punch feel weighty and impactful. And the side content? Actually good. The companion quests flesh out characters like Freya and Tyr, and the optional bosses, the Berserkers, the Valkyries, are genuinely challenging. Ragnarok is a masterclass in sequel design. It builds on everything that worked, fixes what didn't, and delivers a story that feels complete. If you want a single-player game that justifies $70, this is it. Spider-Man 2 is what happens when a developer takes everything that worked in the first two games and says, let's make it bigger, faster, and more emotional. You're playing as both Peter and Miles. The story actually justifies having two Spider-Men, and the web-slinging has never felt better. The addition of web wings turns traversal into this flow state where you're gliding between skyscrapers at ridiculous speeds, and the PS5 handles it without a single stutter or load screen. The Venom arc is where this game earns its price tag. You're not just fighting a villain, you're watching Peter lose himself to the symbiote, and the performances are incredible. The moment where you're playing as Venom, ripping through enemies with zero mercy, is visceral and uncomfortable in the best way. Then there's the Peter versus Miles fight in the third act, where you're swapping between perspectives mid-battle, and the emotional weight of two brothers fighting hits hard. The set pieces, collapsing amusement parks, symbiote-infested streets, boss fights on crumbling bridges are summer blockbuster moments that make you feel like you're living in a superhero movie. It's not perfect. Some side missions feel repetitive, and the open-world collectibles are standard Ubisoft-style busywork. But the main story, the character work, and the sheer joy of being Spider-Man is worth every penny. Insomniac delivered a superhero game that respects your intelligence and your time. That's rare. Look, this list is subjective, and I'm sure I missed someone's favorite game. Maybe you think I'm crazy for including Stellar Blade, or maybe you're mad I didn't rank God of War #1. That's fine. Single-player games are personal experiences, and what resonates with me might not hit the same for you. The point is, these 19 games prove that single-player isn't dead. It's alive, it's thriving, and it's delivering some of the best experiences gaming has to offer. So here's the question. Which single-player game on PS5 do you think is worth every dollar? Did I sleep on something? Did I overrate something? Let me know in the comments. And if your partner sees your credit card statement after watching this and asks why you bought 4 games in one weekend, I'm sorry, but also, you're welcome. If this video helped you figure out what's actually worth your time and money, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll keep making these as long as you keep watching. Now, go play something that actually respects you as a player.